And we are live. This is your brother asarimhotep, and I'd like to welcome back everyone to Conversations with Brother asarimhotep with the Madhu Mandela Institute for the Advancement of Science and Culture. And today we have a dynamic show, and I know it's Friday, and y'all could be anywhere in the world if you don't have COVID-19, but you chose to be here with us. And I appreciate that greatly. And today's topic, the show is titled Learning How to Fight African Americans in Firearms Training. And so this is the first of a series of discussions where I will invite guests that will teach you how to fight in various different capacities. So we're starting off today with firearms, weapons, training, things of that nature. And we will continue the discussion in the realms of food sovereignty, in terms of housing, in terms of law, in terms of economics, and the whole nine. Education, how to fight educationally, how to teach yourself how to fight intellectually. And we're going to run the whole gamut. So we want to create a diverse set of warriors and to teach people how to defend themselves in a wide array of instances and the like. And as always, I like to show love to those who show the program love by showing up live in our chat rooms, both on Facebook and on YouTube. So peace and blessings to Brother David Shaw, H-Town in the building, to I Am Pablo in the place, another H-Towner, Brother Chavez. We got Brother Any Harrod in the building. And thank you, Brother Don Williams, for your contribution. Peace and blessings to you in the house. Peace to, who is it, Zane Montego, to Silas Black, OG Gorilla, how you doing? Who is this? Etiquette, Tina Miguet, Sister Mika, Florida, Brother Karanja, Keita Carroll's in the building, Brother Kufu, Al Kabulon Mine, Callie in the building, Maake Ru. If I missed anybody, I will try to shout you out throughout the night if you make yourself known. But peace and blessings to all of you. Thank you for joining. And without further ado, I want to introduce to you my dynamic panel of guests who are knowledgeable on this subject in various different capacities. And so I won't hold you up any longer. So I will take myself off of the focus. And we have three of the guests in the building. So I'm going to go from my top right to the bottom, and then we'll end on my bottom left. So we have Brother Yara Neb, we have Brother Will, and y'all can unmute your mics. And Brother Sanjetti, y'all should know Amin Ra Squad up in the building. And so my intent was not to have all brothers. I mean, to have all brothers, but to have some women representation. But the sister she may be running late, so hopefully she could come back on. Hopefully she can come on the show during the second hour, and we'll get her perspective as well. So thank you, brothers, for joining me. How y'all doing this evening?
All right, doing all right.
All right. Well, I want y'all to introduce yourself and kind of give us a little background of how you relate to this subject, and I will just go down the line. So I'm gonna go Brother Yara, Will, then Brother Sanjetti.
Hit it.
Yes.
All right. Yara there. Name of the company is Brass Tactics Firearm Safety and Licensing. I little bit of military training. I got into this. Just got my certification to be an LTC licensed to carry instructor in the state of Texas in March. Actually, a week before the COVID really hit and things started shutting down. And so I've had maybe 50, maybe 30, between 20 and 30 classes so far in that period. And my primary goal is to get those who can license. And that's Brother Will.
All right.
What's going on, family? Peace. I'm Will. I'm located in Delaware. Some of you might have seen me running around in my bedroom as I run and gun. I'm a firearms instructor. I'm also a competitive shooter and personal trainer. Started in firearms around 99 when the whole Y2K uncertainty was happening. So I panic bought like a lot of people are doing now, just not to the degree that's happening now. Primarily, I've just been wanting to get as many of our people trained up to learn how to be proficient with whatever platform that they own as humanly possible. And that's been my goal and my motivation.
All
right. So this is Sanjetti. I do have a military background, which does include firearms training for combat and safety as well. And my goal is to keep people educated on the history of gun laws in the country and what you can do to legally arm yourself to protect your family.
All right. Thank you, brothers. I'll just start off with the question of why, in your opinions, do you believe that African Americans should have arms? Why should we arm ourselves in this day and age? What is the benefit of arming ourselves? What is the intent for us to arm ourselves? And anyone can take that.
Well, we're our own first responders, so I don't think that it's anyone else's responsibility to protect ourselves, protect our families, other than our own. So relying on someone else to do that for you, especially if you know that other person, organization, entity doesn't have your best interests at heart, probably isn't the best decision. So in my opinion, I think we need to learn how to do that for ourselves to the best degree as possible.
Anyone else?
I'll defer to my elder.
It's simple. I should be able to defend myself to the death, right? Mm-hmm. And if there's a situation that arises where I can't use my mind to get out of it, right? I can't slip out of the situation. If I can't use the martial arts training I have to get out of it, and the aggression still is coming my way, I have to use a brick to bust you upside the head to save my own life. In this case, it's a handgun, right? Immediately it's a handgun because I carry it. If you're in my home, it's a shotgun. If you further away, it will be a rifle. And so the firearm allows me to defend to use deadly force, right? Firearm allows me to use deadly force to protect my life, my family's life, or anybody else's life that I care about. Period. Go ahead, youngster.
All right. So I just made a little phrase, like why should, what is the benefit of African Americans owning firearms? So I just wrote this down to equally meet the degree of threat that is met. to equally meet the degree of threat that is met. In other words, if someone comes to you with a blade, I should be able to have a blade. Someone comes to you with a supersonic laser pistol, you should be able to have a supersonic laser pistol. So, and in my experience with security in Delaware, when you go to the weapons laws in Delaware, especially when you're doing security, you are allowed to meet the threat equally. In other words, like if someone comes to you with a knife, again, you're a private citizen, then you can meet that person with a knife. But it would be a problem if that person had a knife and then you had a gun. They consider that not equal. Or if the person was unarmed, that came to you empty-handed with fists or open hands or just using their body, and you come to them with a firearm, then of course that would be a problem in the eyes of the law. But you will want to be able to meet to the level of threat. So if your assailant raised the threat level to firearm, you should be able to raise it to the level of threat of a firearm protection with the firearm at all times. And for most people, it's having firepower. Firepower is really the highest form of physical attack or defense. So, and besides, in this country, ever since at least the 1620s, it was mandated that all citizens have firearms, even though at that point we were not considered citizens, but we can save that for discussions.
Sister Monica, I see you in the chat. If you want to join the conversation, I would love to have a woman's voice in this conversation. So a lot of us know Sister Monica for doing the financial education, but she is also former military, and would love for one of y'all to run up on her the wrong way when she's carrying. So if Sister Monica, wants to join the panel, I will give you the link to join the panel if you don't mind. But anyway, so in this day and age, we have the situations. We of course we have the issues with the cops who, that is kind of their sanctioned first responder military force for the civilian population. But outside of the cop situation, when you're thinking about, home invasions or being robbed, or a situation like what has happened to our good brother in Georgia recently, who was just out jogging and some men, chased him down in a truck, that it would seem that, to me, this time it's been time, in my opinion, for African Americans to carry arms. But it seems more heightened now because, it seems that there's certain white people out there who believe that their way of life is going to is disappearing because all these quote unquote minority groups are advancing in this society. And so they're stepping up their blatant attacks, on African people and other folks in general. And so, in my mind, it would behoove us to arm ourselves, and prepare ourselves in various different ways. But then you have those who believe that we shouldn't hold, weapons. And I want to get y'all opinion on like the debate with the Second Amendment rights for the United States. And it seems like, we're kind of in a catch-22 situation, because as soon as a lot of African Americans gets arms and gets licensed, then they want to change some things to make it harder for, Black folks to get arms here. And so to what degree do we have to rely on the law to protect us or protect our right to carry? And if we can't rely on it, what do we do in a situation where they're making it almost impossible for us to get guns? If my question made any sense.
I'll say this. Sorry. The laws of the United States don't apply to us as they are written, right? The overwhelming majority of the time when we try to use the law in our favor, it fails. There's some loophole. There's some reason why it can't be applied as it's written, right? And so it would be less than wise. It would be less than wise, unintelligent to think that the law of the United States is going to help you. So the Second Amendment rights for me is a ridiculous conversation. It's just ridiculous. I have the right to protect myself. The state doesn't give me that right. Nature gives me that right. Right. I have the right to defend myself and make sure that I stay alive and my offspring stay alive. I have that right from nature, and so that's not a Second Amendment right. And I don't look to the federal government to defend my rights, right? The state government, it's funny. I live in Texas, right? I currently live in Texas, where they're like pro gun. You follow me? There is no in Texas. There is no meet with equal force here. It's meet with force. Right? You raise your fist to me, and I feel threatened. I can stand my ground, right? If I feel my life is in danger, right? I fear for my life. I can stand my ground and use deadly force here in Texas, right? So I might stay here for a while. You follow what I'm saying? Once we accept that the laws of the United States don't apply to us as they are written, we move in a different way, right? We move in a more natural way, not looking to the state to support us, defend us, as Will was saying, to defend us. Now, what are the rules for me obtaining a firearm, carrying a firearm, and using a firearm? What are the rules in a particular state that I live in? And sometimes I think the rules can change via county as well, right? What are the rules in the state that I live in? Texas is an open carry state, right? Texas, I can carry with the license. I can carry openly with the magazine in the gun, with the round in the chamber, for a handgun, right? You can't do that in every state, right? So why don't I get my license to carry, so I don't have to have the gun in the glove compartment and the bullets in the trunk? And if I need to use them, I got to drive away, pull the car over, get the gun out the glove compartment, and then pop the trunk and find the bullets that's in the trunk, and then load my gun. Why not just get the license to carry? You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Then I can alleviate that one step per y'all rules. That's my take on your statement of the laws and whatnot. They don't apply. Do what's necessary to be in line with the rules in your state, but understand that the laws don't apply.
I don't know. So you brought up the point that there's different laws depending on your location here in the United States.
Yeah.
So is there? So I know you're in Jersey. You said you're in Delaware, Will, and you're in Texas, Brother Yara. So I want to know first, is there like a federal set of laws that regardless to where you go, that rule applies, or is everything left up to the state in which you're in?
I think the only federal law deals with rifles and shotguns, if I'm not mistaken. I think the only federal law allows you to have a rifle or a shotgun, if I'm not mistaken. And that's from the Second Amendment. But Sanjetti or Will.
I think maybe with like class 3 weapons, like if you were to try to obtain an automatic rifle, I think that might be a federal law, like with your tax stamps and with suppressors and things like that. But then they also can vary from state to state. So there's a little bit of both. Like in Delaware, you can't own a suppressor, but in Texas, you could do that. But even so, you have to send that form off right and pay your $200 and get your tax stamp and get approval to own your suppressor. So I think it's a combination of your state law and then also your federal law, and they might overlap sometimes.
Yeah. I think that's definitely, just from a little bit of knowledge that I have about it. Like shotguns is more like on a federal level where you can own, you can have it. Like, but in Delaware, I lived in Delaware for a long time, and I learned that in Delaware, you can open carry and you can have concealed. Now, it seems to be kind of funny, and this comes from my conversations with one of my frat brothers who's the state police officer, and he was just kind of giving me the inside scoop. Well, if you're open carry, then the weapon has to always be visible. You cannot conceal it, right? So let's just say, if in this example he gave me, if you're at a gas station and you have open carry, you have to place the weapon on the seat. Now, if let's just say the passenger seat side, of course, is on the right hand side of the vehicle in the front. If the police officer approaches the vehicle from the left side, and the police officer cannot see the weapon, even if you made the attempt to make sure that it was unconcealed, that it was in open plain view, that police officer can arrest you for violating the terms of the open carry, because that police officer just could not see it. Like if that police officer just, had a bad day, just because something was blocking his or her view. So it gets kind of funny. So that's why, to me, it's kind of pointless to have open carry, because why would you want everybody to know you have a firearm in the first place? Because like if you're in a public space, then you can have your open carry. But if you go somewhere like the mall, which is privately owned, like a Christiana mall, it's not owned by the state. You walk in there, then it's a different ballgame. Even if you have it, so it gets funny.
So my next question is then, okay, given where you all live respectively, what are the rules of when and how you can engage? I would have really loved someone from California to have joined this conversation, because I know they have some unique gun laws out there in Cali, but because it appears that you can't really use it in all places, or fire your like let's say like if someone breaks into your home but then they're running out, can you still fire upon them even though they're running out of the home? Like what are the rules for being able to even use the weapon in any different scenario? So let's be basic. Let's start basically in your home. So what is the rules for the home that you can actually use the weapon legally? And I'll start with Brother Yara.
I can use deadly force inside of my home. It's the definition of premises, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to property, right? I can use deadly force, which using my firearm inside of my home. I would have to read that law that deals with you can't shoot a person that's retreating, right? Because your question was, you done broken my house and you're retreating out of my house, and because of the law, I can't shoot you if you're still in my house leaving. You follow me? I would have to read and see how it's written, and then talk with attorneys to see when does this apply. But if you are in my home uninvited, because Texas is a stand your ground state, right? I just have to fear for my life, right? I'm 5'9", 168. I'll be 50 in December. I'm a small man, right? I fear for my life. But you're in my home, and I have a right to defend my home. I have the right to use deadly force in my home, and it carries over to inside of my vehicle, right? You do not need, in Texas, you do not need a license to purchase a handgun. You don't need a license to own a handgun or a rifle or a shotgun in Texas. It doesn't even have to be registered, right? I could buy your handgun right now, sir. You know, if I drive down to Houston and buy your handgun right now, no receipt. It's legal to do that in Texas, right? And so if I'm in my vehicle, I don't have to have a license to carry if I'm in my car in Texas. It has to be concealed, Sanjay. If I'm in my car without a license to carry, which used to be the concealed weapons license, it has to be concealed completely. And most people just say in the glove compartment. If somebody runs into the car and tries to attack me while I'm in my car and I feel for my life, Texas also doesn't require me to try to escape, right? I don't have to try to drive off. That'd be a pertinent question. Why don't you just drive off, right? Well, I was in shock, and the first thing I did was reach under my steering column into the lockbox and grab my firearm and started shooting at the man who was banging on my window, right? He broke the window and I started shooting. While I'm in my vehicle, I don't need that license. I put 1 foot outside the car, now I'm in violation of the law, right? I'm no longer in my vehicle. And so if I start shooting outside of my home or off my property, I might run into that same kind of situation without a license. You follow?
Yeah.
If you're
well, go ahead. Continue. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
If you're trespassing in my home or my property, I can use deadly force if I fear for my life, right? You're trespassing on my property. I've told you to leave, right? I don't want you here. I don't have to be nice to you to get you out of my house, right? There's nothing that says I have to be nice to you and escort you out and call the police. No. You're in violation. My home is the most private. Michigan, if I'm not mistaken, had this thing about the bathroom is the most private part of the home, right? And so you can assuredly use deadly force if you lock yourself in the bathroom and an intruder busts into your bathroom. But in the living room, it might be a different situation. Texas has no such rules.
You can't shoot the Jehovah's Witnesses that come to the door at the living room. They have to come to the bathroom. Is that what you're saying?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
What I'm saying is that the Jehovah's Witness, how you doing, sister? How you doing, brother? No, I do not. Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior. That's what I'm saying.
But if a Jehovah's Witness comes to the door, you can't fear for your life. That they would indoctrinate you, so that doesn't count.
That doesn't count.
Okay. So what? I'll let y'all finish that. But I asked the question: to what degree, is it lawful for there to be a fear for life situation? But I'll let you continue, Brother Will.
Yeah, in most states, let me just clear something up real quick, just for the viewing audience, in case you weren't sure. When we say open carry means that your firearm is openly exposed. So think about how you see a police officer carry their gun. That's open carry. It's not covered in any way. It's in plain view. It's not hidden in any shape or form. Exactly. See the brother's gun? If you walk past him, you know he has a gun. It's right there. That's open carry. In Delaware, if his T-shirt were to cover half of that and not the other half, it's considered concealed carry, and he would need to have a license to do that. But just to clear that up in case anyone wasn't sure, the difference, if it's concealed, it should be hidden, and then there's varying differences of what is considered concealed depending on where you live. But in Delaware, to be honest with you, I'm not 100% sure how the law is written as far as your home and protection. I know in Florida, it is highly illegal to shoot someone in their back if they're running away. If someone just assaulted you and stabbed you in your chest and they start to run away, at that point, they're no longer a threat because they're retreating. So you would go to prison if you were to shoot them in the back. The only thing would be if you knew for certain that they were about to do harm to someone else immediately, then you could fire upon them. But if you were to shoot someone that's running away, then you would be going to prison. Same thing if I'm in Walmart and I'm walking to my car and you jump out with a gun, I pull my gun, you weren't expecting that, and now you drop your gun and start running. I can't shoot you legally in most states. In some states, you can get away with that, but in most states, that would be murder, and you would go to prison.
Will, let me piggyback on you, Will. So I just Googled, can I shoot someone in my home? First thing that popped up in Texas, it is generally it generally is legal to shoot a burglar, and it doesn't matter whether his back was turned inside your house, right? Right?
Texas gets it in.
Yeah.
Right? I may not move. Right?
I don't blame you.
In other words, don't rob anybody's house in Texas.
That's right.
You know, period. But especially in Texas. But continue.
Definitely. So the key thing that if you're going to own a gun, if you already have one, is to make sure that you get your information from a lawyer if possible. Because the laws are always changing, and sometimes they're written in a way where they're confusing. And like the brother said earlier, sometimes they don't work in our favor. So you want to stack your odds in your favor. When I was in Florida, I had an insurance company. It's almost like prepaid legal, essentially. U.S. Law Shield. I think they're based out of Texas. But the good thing about that company is that 24 hours a day, I could call them and they would put me in touch with a lawyer, and I could ask a specific question about how the law was written in my particular state. Because as soon as you cross the line, it's something different. And in Delaware, it's so, and you know, being so close to us, and Jed, you've been here, in 20 minutes, I'm in Jersey, 20 minutes, I'm in PA, 20 minutes another way, I'm in Maryland. So you can easily be in violation of another state. It happened to me when I was driving Uber in Philadelphia. I picked up a fare. It took me over the line to Jersey. I was concealed, which was legal in Delaware, but I went over into Jersey where I had 21 rounds in my magazine and I had hollow points. Both of those are highly illegal. So needless to say, I was sweating bullets until I can get back over that line back into Pennsylvania where I was safe. But I'm by no means a legal expert. I know just a little bit, but I typically just defer just so I don't give anyone any advice that gets them in trouble down the road.
Yeah. Speaking of Jersey, I don't know too much about the state. All I know is it's extremely hard to get a concealed carry license for a hand weapon, handgun. And from what I remember is that you can have a license to conceal carry in New Jersey, but it's mainly for people who are law enforcement, security, and people who carry a firearm on the job. Mainly. So it's still legal, but it's highly frowned upon by law enforcement, especially if you're not security for law enforcement some type of way. So
and no one has fought that, because this goes back to the Second Amendment rights. So it and we'll just have to pull it up, that famous, because I know it's been a debate as far as how do you read the Second Amendment, because of the nature of the commas and things and what does it apply to. And so you can, kind of look up a few videos and a lot of legal experts, have the discussion about it. But to me, that would, because at the end it says, the right of, the individual, the population's, right to bear arms would not be infringed upon. So if only those people can carry firearms in the state, you would think by now someone would have, made the argument that that is illegal because everyone, has the right to bear arms.
Sanjay, can I have a rifle in New Jersey?
I think so. Don't quote me on that.
Can I have a shotgun in New Jersey?
I think so.
Because I can always go hunting. I think everywhere in the United States, I can always go hunting, right?
What I also read on the Jersey law, I forgot to mention, is people who go hunting, who have a license for hunting, that they're favored as far as carrying, having concealed. So thanks for that. I forgot to mention.
Right.
But no one goes hunting with a Glock usually, so you couldn't get a Glock for hunting.
But the Second Amendment doesn't say handguns; it says firearms.
Right?
Yeah.
And so it's not infringing upon your right to have a firearm. The state is restricting your right, what type of firearm, right? You can get your rifle, you can get your shotgun, but you don't need, what the guy tell me today? You don't need a Tech 9 or a Mac 10 or something like that. You're not hunting with that, sir.
So no bazookas or Uzis. I can't get that in Jersey.
Yeah.
But I can go to Walmart and get it.
I'll go ahead and just read the Second Amendment. So 1793 Second Amendment of the U.S. Constitution ratified. It reads as follows: a well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. End quote. So that's 1791, Second Amendment. So
go ahead. I'm sorry.
So the question is, what historical events occurred that initiate certain types of laws? Now, we already know that the gun laws in this country since the 1600s were targeted at Black people. That is a fact. It's not an opinion. That is what it is. And, the record shows the 1600s, 1718, the 1900s, 2000s. It's just that when we get into the further along we get, and especially past the Civil War, they start using more race neutral language. For a long time, especially in the 1900s, 1920s, etc. It seems ambiguous, especially after the Gun Law Act of 1958. During the period of the Black Panthers. So these are things that we got to be conscious of.
Mm-hmm. So this reading the Second Amendment, it brings up because this has been part of the debate as well. The use of militias, and we hear about these quote unquote white militias all of the time, but are there any quote unquote Black militias that is recognized, saying anywhere? And if not, should we create our own militia? So outside of our individual right to bear arms, and we're getting arms to defend our personal space and family, is it within the cards for African Americans to create their own militia club, in essence, just in case Al Qaeda comes and invade the state of Texas and we need to defend it because all of the other layers of military for some reason couldn't make it to where we're at? What is your opinion on that?
Well, I'm glad that you brought that example up, but always ask, well, what is the purpose of a militia? You know, what is the function of a militia outside of the government sanctioned military? Well, we know that one of their functions is to assist with protests and riot. Because if we were looking on the news, there was talks about considering pulling in militias to help control riots. Okay, so that's in official capacity. But outside of that, okay, with the white militias, what is their function? What are they afraid of? And so I'll leave that question out there, and we can come back. We can circle back around to that. But yeah, I mean, I think about that periodically. What if we get, you know, an invasion over here? You know, what if we get attacked, you know, by a rogue group from another country? You know, they go right into, say, Southwest Philly, where I'm from. You know, and you know they're locking down whole blocks, and the police can't even get in there. What are we going to do? Are we organized? You know, or if they're going to, say, Detroit, and they want to lock down whole sections, and they lock down the black side of, say, Chicago, you know, or in Garbage City, right, in Wilmington, Delaware. What kind of preparation do we have? You know, or they chase us into the woods. You know, I sometimes think of, because that is possible. You know, that is possible. I think, you know, it would be wise to have something like that to prepare for such an event.
If the militia, part of the militia was to, you know, I guess control protests and riots, you know, to me that would be a good reason to create militias so that they can lead the charge and be at the rear, you know, protecting our, you know, protesters. You know, if we have a protest or something to that nature, and you can, you know, make the argument that we're trying to control, you know, the situation and things of that nature. I would have to look into that and to see to what degree that is to be expected even in the modern era. But anyone else want to tackle it?
I'm with both of you on that. It's important. It's critical. Look no further than Black Wall Street and see what happened there. Our own people, we're moving that direction again, then we're going to need to be able to protect whatever it is that we build. But with that in mind, we're going to have to understand that there's going to be people that are going to look at a group like that in a negative light, even if they're not doing negative things. A week ago, I was at a protest in Wilmington, and I was fully kitted. I had body armor on, an AR-15, and I had my sidearm. Another brother was with me, same thing, Brother Quasi. As we're in the crowd, the reactions that we were getting were really mixed between, why are you here? This is a nonviolent protest, to little kids thinking it's Call of Duty, to other people being just afraid because they don't know. And then some of our own people not even wanting us there, when our thing was, we're here for your protection. Not that I want to get in a gunfight, not that I want to shoot someone, but I was willing to protect my own people. So there's a lot of education, I think, that has to take place, because a lot of our people have this negative view on firearms. And they feel like just because you own a gun, that means you're going to do something negative with it. And that's not the case at all. It could be as simple as you like to shoot, or you just want to protect yourself and your family, which you have every right to do. And like the brother said, according to the laws of nature, not even according to some, you know, ink on a piece of paper. So that's kind of how I feel about that. We definitely need that.
So I like this period we in, right? Just type the question in. Can you legally form a militia? Approximately half the states maintain laws regulating private militias. Generally, these laws prohibit the parading and exercising of armed private militias in public, but do not forbid the formation of private militias. In Wyoming, however, state law forbids the very formation of private militias. And so, first of all, what the hell are you doing out there protesting? right? Right? Give me out there protest, first of all. They're not going to change their mind. Sanjetti, please stop kicking my butt. Please. Look at this sign I wrote. It says, I matter. Don't beat me up no more, right? It's not until I do something physically to stop Sanjetti, to attempt to stop Sanjetti from kicking my butt. And then Sanjetti is going to exert more force to try to kick my butt. And then I have to exert more force or figure out how to pivot from his force. You follow what I'm saying?
I do, but
let me finish.
I don't feel like protests change anything. I just feel like it draws awareness. So I feel like it plays a role, but it's not going to change anything. It just draws awareness. That's how I feel about that, if that makes sense.
Understood. Yeah. And so the formation of a militia, an African-American militia, will reach 12 to 14% of the population in this country, right? A militia to protect our people in a militia? Using that term? No, your ass better just form a nice little club of guys and women who like guns and like to shoot at targets and, you know, just recreational for us. Those same skills, Will, is very skilled up, right? Those same skills can move to any other area. Will says he's a militia, he's a bad guy. Will says he's a competitive gun shooter. He's like, wow, I never thought of that. I bet you my granddaddy could have did that. He was an expert shot. You follow what I'm saying? But you use the language of a militia, man, you asking for trouble. I'm just a little guy, right, who wants to protect himself, and I got my, firearm on my hip, right? And that's all. I ain't in no groove. You follow what I'm saying?
No, I'm with you.
Why are you out there? Why would a person be out there saying that they're in the militia when that phrase rings a lot of bells, right? Why not just say, if you're going to be out there to defend your people who are choosing to protest, you're going to be out there to defend them, why say anything, right? Just be. I don't have to answer your questions, right? If I within the laws of that state, right? If this is a sanctioned protest, right? Y'all done got the permits and all that kind of stuff, right? And there's no rules against firearms in the protest, then I can just show up. 20 of us can just show up with everybody else. Nobody needs to know what our purpose there. And so that's one of the challenges that Black people have. Is this a PG program or something? We have
generally it is, but
we have to learn to be.
We don't have to create. So it's in the language. So we don't have to create a militia. We just have to be armed farmers. So we're armed farmers, going out and spreading the good news of green beans, and if something just happens to pop off, then, we're ready to respond, equally. So I'm with that, because I'm more of a, everybody ain't got to know you this, but then at the same time, you have to have some level of recruitment. So it's not necessarily try to be a show of force, because every time, it's just as you said, every time you try to organize in some way, they take it as, they have yet to label the KKK a terrorist organization. But if Brother Yara and Will and Sanjetti, organize a book club, y'all are a terrorist group, and the book club meeting is going to get invaded.
Yeah.
And so we always got to keep that in mind here in the United States. But even still, it's just like Brother Will said, because as I've ranted on Facebook on a number of times, you really only have two options as African Americans. You're either going to try to build a stake here, or you're going to have to go somewhere else and build your own society. And so if you choose to stay here, you're going to have to navigate a little bit differently. Even if you go somewhere else, you're going to have to navigate a little bit differently. But either way it goes, you're going to have to prepare yourself to defend yourself. So if we are planning to build another Black Wall Street in Rosewood, then there has to be, you know, some forces there that are able to repel any kind of onslaught by European, you know, at minimum the citizens, who feel that they can come and just ride it because of their jealousy of how African Americans are moving. And that seems to be the history, and one of the reasons why, you know, this question of, you know, us defending ourselves, because that seems to be something that we have never done in a very organized and great scale. So every single time we create these subdivisions or these towns, we lack the defense, you know. So like I'm a software developer, you know, by training. And so every time I build some software, the first thing that I'm thinking about is defense. How are people going to come and try to hack the system and retrieve information or put something in to disrupt the system? Like, defense is part of the coding strategy. And so if we're talking about, you know, creating sovereign spaces, defense has to be, you know, the one of the top priorities, you know, of that, whether we're talking about quote unquote legal issues, you know, in physical self-defense, in terms of the culture and identity space, you know, like these things have to be, you know, talked about. Thus the series, you know, learning how to fight in all of these different, you know, particular areas, not just with the guns. But I want to kind of shift it a little bit and ask the question, in terms of training. So like how do you train, and how often do you train, and how often should you train, you know? And you know, do you recommend training with all types of weapons, even if you don't feel that you may necessarily use them? To what, you know, to what degree should we be trained? And then I'll add, you know, at what age should we allow our children to start training, you know, with the firearm? So I'll let y'all go and answer that.
Will?
I mean, I'd say, well, in basic training, we were either, most days we're either shooting or cleaning the weapon, learning about the anatomy, of, of course, M16, that's basic, train every day, as much as possible, and that's really with anything you do, because self-defense, again, this all goes within the realm of martial arts or martial training, training to protect yourself. And then when it comes to training with all types of weapons, you should train with all types of weapons. And in martial arts, we say improvised weapons, because you don't know what situation you're going to be in. You could be walking down the street, with your significant other, and and you are attacked by an assailant, and the only thing you have next to you, let's say, like, there's a trash can, right? That's an improvised weapon, In fact, in one of the arts I've taken, you listen, the curve is your weapon, the ground is your weapon. If you have that type of mentality of improvised weapons, to learn how to defend yourself, because again, as Brother Yara said, that self-defense is a natural law. So, it is your duty as a human being to protect yourself, because that's really the law of life. All living things have a self-defense and or attack mechanism. Plants have thorns, that's a protective mechanism. Animals, insects, everything has a protective mechanism. So we should always follow suit. But again, train with all types of weapons and improvise weapons as well.
All right, Will.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Train with everything you can. I would also add that if you own I don't know, a Glock, and that's your primary weapon, I would dedicate most of your training with that, because odds are that's what you're going to use. As far as I'm talking about firearms are concerned, learning how to run all guns is important. But if you're just starting out, then you might want to get yourself up to speed first with that one platform that you're more likely to use, and then start branching off and learning other ones. As far as how often or how much, I almost do something every day, even if it's 5 minutes to dry fire. Which, if you're not familiar, dry fire is weapon manipulations, essentially, whether it's just clearing malfunctions, loading, unloading, pressing the trigger, resetting the trigger, getting a sight picture, all those things done absent, can't stress that enough, absent of ammunition. If possible, ammunition in a completely different room. And you can do that at home. 5 minutes a day, trust me, it makes a big difference. So I'm a huge fan of that. Just training as much as you can, and whatever your goal is. If you feel like you're already proficient, maybe like the two brothers here, they have military backgrounds. So I'm sure if you put a rifle in their hands, it's going to be trouble. So for them, they might not need as much with the rifle. Maybe it's something else. And for, everybody's going to be a little bit different. I will say a handgun is going to be a little harder than a rifle to shoot. So if that's your primary weapon, then definitely, practice and train as much as possible. As far as children are concerned, that's going to be a parent's decision, because no one's going to know their child like their parent. Is your child mature enough to respectfully handle that firearm? Is your child going to not try to get their hands on it? Because you know how we are as kids. We know it's there. I was running around my house when I was a kid with my father's shotgun. I didn't know what I was doing. To me, it was fun. So just making sure they don't have access, and they don't have that. I guess sometimes fear can breed curiosity. And you're like, no. And then, of course, as a kid, you're like, well, why is he so adamant that I can't touch that? So just make sure if you have them that they're locked up. But again, parents just figure out, some people start their children off at 6 and 7 shooting. So it really just depends on how mature your child is. And then I'll just say, if you're going to do that, please give the child like a little 22, something really, really small. Don't give them a huge gun. One, it's going to be too much for them to control. Two, it's probably going to make them have a really bad experience. It might turn them off from it. So go slow and just be patient. But again, the parents know their children better than anyone. So I think that's just kind of an individual thing.
Yeah. The only thing to add to both is that it's a mentality. It's a mentality that you have. I have the right to defend myself by using whatever I need to defend myself, right? And so there's no reason for people to be afraid of firearms, handguns, right? The gun does nothing sitting on the table, right? There's no spontaneous combustion with the gun. I have to do something. And if I'm properly trained if I'm properly trained, then I can utilize the tool, which we're calling a handgun. There's this fear that I see with Black people when it comes to guns. There's this excitement that I see with white people when it comes to guns. Excitement and like extension of who they are, right? When it comes to guns, the gun's like an extension of who the white man is. With Black people, we seem to have moved away from that as we move from farming and hunting for our food in this country, right? And moved into more city life and more of a modern era. We put the gun down, and that's made us look like punks, to put it that way. They won't even defend themselves, so I can go over there and kick their ass, even if it is 100-10 white favor, right? Because you brought up Rosewood, you brought up Tulsa. We don't win that fight, right? They were dropping bombs from airplanes. You follow me? They were dropping. We didn't have no airplanes to shoot at them. But I think it was one. I think one brother was a pilot and had an airplane. But white folks were using their crop dusters to drop bombs in Tulsa. We don't win that fight. And so once you understand that we're 14% of and some of y'all don't believe that, let's say 25%. Let's say Detroit used to be, when I lived there, was 90% Black, right? 1 million people, 900,000 people in the city were black. That's not the state, right? The state is predominantly white, and we're not talking about 51%. So you don't win the fight here. You don't win the fight here. You salvage your life here, and you leave here, firing forward and bagging up. We had to fight to get out of here. Well, let me rephrase it. There's the time period is upon us, and it's slowly getting worse. We're going to have to fight to leave here. There's still time for us to leave here peacefully, right? And then plant roots, and then fight to defend something that's rightfully ours, right? Where the odds are more in our favor. In the United States, you have whites who are against us. You have Hispanics who are against us, the ones that think they white. You have Asians who are against us, Arabs and Chinese and Japanese who are against us. And you have some black people who are not with other black people, right? And so those that want to defend black people, Will's at the protest, and black people are chastising him. Boy, what you here doing here with that gun? We don't need that here. Have you not been watching what happens at 8:30? Right? 8:30 during the protest, they turn to riots, and those riots, the different tone takes place. And so we don't win here. You get your firearm to protect yourself immediately and your family immediately, and so you can secure what you need to get the hell up out of here. There's no sovereignty in the United States of America. They dropped a bomb in Philly, right, with the move. So we got Tulsa, Philly. They when you read 100 Years of Lynching, these white mobs were going to the jail to snatch black people out of the jail and lynch their ass, right, in the town square, right? Where you got and this is from Duluth, Minnesota, right? Almost as north as you can go in the United States, down to Georgia and Mississippi. The white mob is busting into the jail to get the black person who they say was a criminal. He's in jail. They snatch the damn bars off and drag him in the street. So the numbers prove that we can't win an armed fight. The gun immediately gets you up off me, right? Maybe we shouldn't attack that neighborhood today because they're kind of armed. Give us about a week and we'll come back. That moment of those 7 days gives us the opportunity to get up on out, because we know they're coming back not only with the mob and their militia, the National Guard is behind them, because black people defending themselves turns into riots. You follow me? Whites attacking black people defending themselves. Now is a mob attacking the good white people. And then the state activates the National Guard. So we don't win here. And so the with children, as Will said, as young as possible. But the parent has to know the temperament. The parent has to know the temperament of their child. My youngest son, he's 13 now, but the boy said he wanted to play the flute because it was a quiet instrument. Right? He didn't want to play the trumpet because it was too loud. You know what I mean? So he don't like noise. So imagine him at the range. You know what I mean? Imagine him at the range. Maybe
give him a bow and arrow. I was just saying.
Give him a bow and arrow.
Yeah,
give him that sonic gun Sanjay was talking about. Right?
Yeah.
But the parent has to know their child's temperament. Right? Every person. Not every person is some people have to be trained to defend themselves, right? Some people have to be trained to defend themselves. Some people don't have that natural instinct to fight. Some people just cower if it's too much pressure. And so the parent has to really know their child, and if they want their child to know firearms, the sooner the better. The sooner the better. I knew I need to leave him alone. With my daughter, my oldest son, they could take it. For my youngest, he's absolutely not interested in real life guns. The older two, my daughter thinks it's cool sometimes, right? She's 19. And my oldest son is like, yeah, I would really appreciate going back to the range. We could do this often. And so that's just to that. But I really want to stress that we do not win here. We do not win here. I'm
just trying to figure out how long will it take for me to get the John Wick status with my training. What do I have to do that, I can go into a club and kill 100 people without getting caught, and run from the mafia and, everything like the white man in John Wick.
Well, there was something I wanted to, that Yarl brought up. I think he made a really, really good point of the compare and contrast of the mentality of a white person with a firearm and a black person with a firearm. Whereas a white person with a firearm perceives the gun as an extension of self. They're not afraid to embrace it. And they're more likely, I'm going to add, to be aggressors with a firearm. Juxtapose that with a black person with a firearm, we're usually afraid of it, and we don't see it as an extension of ourselves. And we're usually put into a position where we have to defend with it. We're not the aggressor. So looking at, if we go back to the laws, going back to the 17th century moving forward, you would read laws where white men are mandated, be they law enforcement or a civilian citizen, to be able to confiscate weapons, be it a firearm or a club. Like, damn, you can't even carry a stick, where they can confiscate your weapons, especially your firearm, free or slave. Again, I'm using the language that's in the written in those laws, and we were always afraid because we know that at any point these people could just come into your home and just take from you. So anything you had, we would have to hide. So multiply that by several centuries. What kind of mentality are we now developing? And then that brings us to Dr. Joy DeGruy and her work, post-traumatic slave syndrome. Because not being able to bear arms legally and knowing that any moment it can be confiscated from you by law enforcement or citizens. And there are some laws that allow you to be killed if you just resist. Even if you verbally resist, you can simply be killed. And some of the lawful wording says, if the Negro makes trouble, you just get killed. So, again, I think that when we look at Dr. Joy DeGruy's work, he's talking about healing from that trauma, meaning there's things that we don't have to do anymore. Like whenever we talk about whites or racism, we lower our voice. That's learned behavior. Taking a passive position is a learned behavior. Being in a perpetual state of being disarmed is a learned behavior. So we just have to, in a sense, heal from that and understand that you have a right to protect yourself and not be afraid of firearms, because we are fully human beings and we have a right to bear them. So there's some reconditioning and resocialization that has been taking place, but it has to take place on a greater scale so that we're not afraid of these things.
So we have to consider, what Brother Yara, mentioned in terms of the numbers and things. But that's, especially when we're, if we were talking about like a large scale revolution or something like that, that's a whole different conversation. What I'm talking about here is these microaggressions, just like with the brother in Georgia. I remember I forgot the gentleman's name, but there, was a case some years ago where a group of young white men, ran over this brother with a truck, down south somewhere. And so what they're doing is they're finding people who are isolated, who they believe are unarmed or won't be able to defend themselves. And those are the ones that they're attacking. Because of course we know they don't come in West Philly, boldly like that, trying to, find people to attack. The whole hood would come out, in defense of someone. And so it's these conversations are for when we find ourselves by ourselves, or in our homes or whatnot, and it's not, this large, like a large scale war, saying or whatnot. It's these, like in Philly, I used to work in a place that, and I didn't have my car then. I would have to catch the bus to a certain location, and then I would have to walk like a mile to where I actually worked. And so in the daytime, it's fine. But at night, where it's nothing but trees out in these, areas, and it's really pitch black, like I used to have to walk with a flashlight, or sometimes I would have a bike and I would have lights on my bike when I would ride, in a situation like that where, I know that I'm going into an area to get to work, that's the time that you need to have, a weapon, because you alone as a black person, and it's number woods and trees, in Pennsylvania, and a whole bunch of racist folks. So you driving through Delaware and in Pennsylvania, you will see those Confederate plates and things of this nature on a lot of these trucks. And so, I'm very aware of where I am, but it's in, I don't want to be in a situation like that and not be able to respond appropriately if some crazy, father and son team, want to try to make an example, out of me because they think that, it's going to be easy, over here. And so these are the kind of situations for which, these type of discussions are for. But even still, even when discussing leaving and going into another, let's say we repatriate back to Africa. Now, there's one or two situations that can happen there. Either you're going to go and integrate with, some society there. Let's say you're in Ghana or Benin or whatnot, and you live. Or we can try to establish our own sovereign territory to where, hopefully like some state, reserve some land and we can, build from the ground up and stuff there. In any scenario, in either one of these scenarios, you have a whole different beast going into Africa, and you still have to know how to fight and defend yourself. And so, like, if you in Nigeria, for example, and you have Boko Haram in the north who have military grade weapons who are, invading certain spaces, I don't know what the gun laws are in Nigeria, but in any situation, like if you're setting up your own sovereign space, now you got to think like a nation. You know, how do the people? And so just like in Israel, everyone is required to have military, to join the military and get military training, because given their location and being surrounded by Arab nations, they need all hands on deck, and everyone needs to be trained, you know, to defend, you know, Israel. And so it may seem like this is small, but this is in preparation for the exit, as you know, Yara was saying. So you're still going to have to, even if you don't plan on necessarily creating a militia and stuff here, you still got to be able to train yourself and train your children. So when you exit, whatever it is that we create somewhere else, we got to be able to defend. And so these types of discussions are important. But we mentioned, besides the training, what does the training consist of? So when you go to the range, you know, for those who haven't been to a range, what do you do there? We assume, of course, you see the, you know, the movies and videos, everybody just shooting at a target, but there's like a moving target, but there's different types of things to do at the range, and not only things. So what should they expect? You know, what are the rules when going to a range?
There's before we jump right there, there's three things, and we're hitting it. It's one, know the laws in your state, right? And understand, know the laws in your state, as Sanjetti is pointing out, and the mentality of the citizens of that state, right? How they view things, right? What ground are you standing on? Will is pointing out clearly the training, right? The become proficient in whatever it is you're going to use. And I'm simply saying, hey, what's your little rules up in this state? Can I carry or can I not carry? Legally. What do I need to do? Somebody asked me to look at something in Maryland. And in Maryland, you have to be a police officer or a private detective or something. So, okay, if I wanted to carry in Maryland, I need to go and be a private eye, right? Mm-hmm. Why do you have your gun? Because I'm a private eye. You on the case? I'm always on the case, right? if that's the rule, right?
Yeah.
Then let me become a private eye, satisfy that, and then I can carry my firearm on me if I live in Maryland. There's a whole lot of black private eyes. You know what I'm saying? Well, yeah, this is your little rule. So let me do this and do that. So now we don't have too much conversation, right? So that's the one I want to point out. What people who are listening, is three things going on. Is what's the immediate rules, licensing or not, per your state. Become proficient and understand the laws that are in your state and the specific history in your state, right? And I'll add on to that, this somebody put in the chat something about psychology. We have to stop being afraid. Like Sanjay said, it doesn't apply anymore, right? Everybody bleeds, right? Everybody bleeds. And everybody dies. And so what do I look like watching you harm somebody that I say that I care about and not do anything? There's a video of a degenerate white man breaking into the house of a black family. The dude tried to snatch. Well, he did. He snatched the daughter, right, and got her out the door. The daddy got him and started punching him and held him on the back porch. And they called the police, right? And the daughter asked if she could kick him, right? And the daddy said no. Man, hey, say, huh? Practice soccer, baby. This man just tried to come into this man came into our house. He came through the back door and snatched your sister and was going to do whatever with your sister. The daddy held him. The police showed up and drew on the daddy, right? Did they draw? They were challenging the daddy. Kept telling the daddy, let the guy up. He said, I'm not letting him up until you get up here, right? So he became the problem. The daddy became the problem, right? And that's one thing. The other thing is that for me, it was the dad's response. Mm-hmm. Let's drag his ass in the middle of the yard and y'all can do what y'all want to him, children. Because he just tried to, well, he snatched you out the house. Do whatever you want to him. Make him pay for even thinking he can do that. That's the level that I remember telling my daughter when she was elementary. Somebody had the nerve to pull on her meds, right, her head wrap, and she turned around and smacked her. I think she was like a third grade maybe. I was okay, baby. It's like levels to this, right? Tell him to stop. He does it again. Tell the teacher. If he disobeys the teacher, then you jump on him, right? Then you jump on him and try to kill him because he doesn't respect you. He doesn't respect authority, right? So he's trying to violate you, and you have to let him know. And so this mindset that we have to get out of it, right? And I'm not saying we need to be walking around with our rifles unloaded, marching and shit, in combat fatigues with no rounds in the chamber, right? With the show of force, you ain't got no force, right? You ain't got no force. Was your gun loaded, Will?
What is that?
When you were at that protest, was your gun loaded?
Yes.
Right. You weren't playing, right? There was no show of force. There was, if something should happen, I'm ready to do what's necessary. You weren't there demonstrating and shit. And so the immediacy of the firearm, the immediacy of the weapon is to protect myself and my family. And then if enough of us have that mentality and the tools required to implement that mentality, people temporarily back up off you, right? We coming for you, but we're gonna go over here and that first, right? We're gonna come for Waterford Oaks. There's a little subdivision on it. We're gonna come for Waterford Oaks, but we're gonna go down here to Highland Hills first because they don't have no guns. We're coming for you, Waterford Oaks. You follow me? Yeah. And so that's how I see it. The range piece. There's a lot of etiquette that goes on in the range. Like I said, when I was naming the company, it's Brass Tactics Firearm Safety and Licensing. We spent a good hour and a half of the 4-hour class, 4 to 5 hour class, state mandated, on safety, right? If the word comes up 4 times on the screen, then the S comes up, the A comes up, the F comes, you know what I mean? We're drilling safety because you ain't shooting me by accident at the damn range, right? And you're not even gonna have an accidental discharge. I would like to go home the same way I came here. You follow me? But it's the range etiquette is you're not there to have you're not in an amusement park, right? You're at a place, when you go to the range, you're at a place where life and death can happen. The mistake is my life, you killing me, right? There's no oopses at the range, right? And so the discipline that you have to have when you're at the range is high, a high level of discipline. But I see people coming here. I smell the marijuana on folks when I'm at the range, right? I see people just, hey, dude, gotta go to you guys. You know what I mean? It's wild. People start asking, do you work here? No, I don't work here. But you ain't shooting me, right? And so I don't know how to describe it on this, but it's, if a person goes to the range, they have to know that everybody they're around, they have their life in their hands. When I go to the range, everybody that I'm around, their life is in my hand because I have this firearm that's loaded, right? And so if you're unwilling to accept that level of discipline, don't take yourself to the range, right? You're not there to be dancing and high-fiving and shit. Not at an indoor range with handguns. You do that when you get off the range, then you celebrate. Go ahead, Will. You spend a lot of time at the range, yes?
Yeah, I do. Now, indoor ranges are typically set up in a fashion where you have lanes. So you might have 3 or 4 feet of space. And then you have a thin wall, and then there's another person literally feet away from you with a firearm. The average person at these ranges, they do not know what they're doing as far as safety is concerned. Like the brother was saying, turning the weapon sideways to look at it. There's a million things that happen. I was at the range once, and there was an older couple immediately to my left. So a sister not from work, showing her how to shoot, and there's an older white couple to my left. If you're familiar with firearms, when you fire the gun, that brass gets ejected and that brass is hot, right? Mm-hmm. So mistake one was that the older gentleman I'm assuming that was his wife, gave her a 45, which has a lot of recoil. It's a violent gun when you shoot it. It was too much gun for her to handle to begin with, one, and he was standing way back, kind of with his arms folded. So long story short, she fired the weapon, hot brass goes down her shirt. It's uncomfortable. It's not going to kill you, but it's uncomfortable, right? But because she doesn't understand muzzle discipline and trigger finger discipline, she panicked and she turned around 180 degrees with the gun, with her finger on the trigger, kind of looking at her husband for help. So things like that happen a lot at ranges, just because people just don't know. And it's not that they're bad people, they just don't know what they don't know. But each range is going to have its own rules as far as what you can shoot, as far as what kind of ammunition. Some ranges won't let you shoot steel case ammo. A lot of them have an agreement with the company that comes and picks up all the spent brass, so they don't want to have to sort it. Some of them won't let you shoot certain types of rounds, as far as like steel penetrators or anything that might mess up or damage the backstop of the range. The backstop is what the bullet should hit if you're doing the right thing, and it kind of prevents them from leaving the building. Others will have limits on how fast you can shoot. So maybe they'll say, at this range, you can only shoot 1 round per second. Anything more than that, we're going to have a conversation. And usually that's a safety thing. And then it's also a range damage thing. If you go to your range, look at the ceiling, you'll probably see some holes in the ceiling. And I don't think anyone put their target up there. It's just because people are shooting faster than their skill level would warrant. I know part of the question was, what should you do when you go to the range? That's going to be dependent on where you are currently as a shooter. What I would say is pick 1 or 2 things only and work on those specific things at the range. If you try to work on 10 things at the range, you're probably not going to accomplish a lot, because it takes a lot of reps in order to make progress. So pick small things and just drill that until you feel like you've made enough progress where you're satisfied, and then pick something else and work on that again and again and again and again. And then just keep it moving down the line and then you'll see your shooting progress. But I wouldn't go to the range and just randomly, if your goal is to get better, I wouldn't go to the range and just hang a target, load up your magazines, and just start shooting. Yeah, this is fun, I'm having a good time, and not paying attention and learning something from every trigger press. So every time you press that trigger, try to learn something.
Yeah, and just adding just a little bit, on the information that the 2 brothers gave, just about discipline. When you have a firearm, keep your finger off of that trigger. Okay, keep your finger off of that trigger. Instead of keeping your finger in the trigger, if you're not about to pull it, it needs to be off. Okay, because I don't know what happened with the situation, with the alleged wife. When she lost control, she turned around to, her supposed husband. I don't know, what happened, but, she probably still had on the trigger. Like as soon as you finish, get your finger out of, off that trigger. Don't rest it on there and thinking that, well, that's my finger off the trigger. No, it needs to completely come off. And when you go to the range, be indoor, outdoor, listen to the instructor. Don't go in there thinking, oh yeah, I'm about to pop up. No, you listen to the instructor. You're not there to play. It's not a game. Even if you go in there to enjoy it, it's still not a game. So anything else I'll say will pretty much be a repetition of what y'all said. So yeah.
What is a good for those who have not fired before? What is a good gun to start off with? And I should add this. It in terms of gender, is there a different good gun for women to start off with versus men, or there is no difference? So what is a good weapon to start off your training with before you can Because as you said, there's there's different power levels with different guns, and so the recoil, which you mentioned, it can be very powerful, and so we want to be safe. So what should we get comfortable with first before moving up to the next level in your experiences?
Well, I'll just say this. I'll probably be the shortest on this. Keep in mind, that naturally men have more muscle mass, so that's it is what it is. That's nature. But even more importantly is you actually being aware of the power coming off and you being able to have control. Because again, you're a muscular man, but if you haven't shot a gun before and you're not aware of that kickback, you can end up, to be the shotgun or whatever, just go all the way up, or hold it right, it can mess up your shoulder or something. Or you could be a woman who say 5'3" and petite, but you're aware of that power and you can have more control. But as far as starting off, most women that I've seen, they usually start off with 22. It could be different, let the other brothers chime in. And I prefer to start off with a Glock as far as a handgun. That's just me personally. Some guys, they like 45, Desert Eagles, etc.
There's in a few of the ranges I go to, they have like a ladies' night, which is really good because you can use any firearm, any one of the different firearms for free, but you got to buy the ammo there, right? And so it's all different types of 9mm, all different sizes. And so you buy one box of 50. So you get in for free, you pay $15 for the ammo, and then you get the charger, which is $2 for $17, $20. You shoot. You say, I don't like the way this one feels. You go return it, you get another one. This one feels kind of funny too. Return it, get another one. 10 shots, 5 shots. Will making this time usually he's loading ammunition. That's funny. But if the range has a ladies' night, take advantage of it. If the range has anything that allows you to get in for free and use their weapons, try it. That's one of the few times or if they have memberships. I just took out a membership at this range. I didn't know to 3 days ago that they had memberships. Now I get to rent any one of their guns for free because I'm a member. And so if that's available, and I can cancel it any time, so there's no obligation, right? So you become a member, and I want to try out every one of the guns that's on the wall until I find the one that I'm comfortable with, right? Shooting, or the one, if I'm on carry, which one is best to conceal, right? So treat it, you're shopping for the gun. It's not a gun is not an impulse purchase. Well, initially, a gun shouldn't be an impulse purchase, right? Initially, it should be what you're comfortable shooting, and then what's its utility, right? What are you going to be using it for? And so, ideally, I have one that I open carry, a rifle, a shotgun, and a gun that I conceal, right? And so ideally, I would carry 2 guns at all times, the one concealed and one open. And so, and there would be 2 different sizes of guns. And so you have to know, one of the first questions I ask my students is, why do you want your license to carry? All right. Why are you here today? And sometimes it's just to something happened, right? Where they understand they need to know how to defend themselves as heightened, or the environment that they're seeing now. Well, I just need to defend myself, or I live by myself, right? And I need something. So it seems as if people purchase guns for insurance, right? Just in case something happens, I'll have this. Very few people, black people have handguns, and are the ones that have the handguns fewer trained with them, right? And so it might be in the house, but locked up, top of the shelf, unloaded, and all that kind of stuff. And so if you're going to get it, train with it, even if it's once a month, right? Even if it's once a month, train with it. Know how the thing responds, as Sanjetti was saying. Know how to load the ammunition, right? Put yourself, when I was a lifeguard when I was younger, and I used to have access to the pool to myself. And I would just get in, and I wouldn't tie my legs. I would just cross my legs and pretend like I couldn't use my legs. And how long can I stay afloat? I would cross my arms, and how long can I stay afloat? And so put yourself under a little stress to see, how quick can I load in 5 seconds, with music going on, and how quick can I do this? So stress yourself a little bit, because when the situation happens, you want to have practiced enough to respond in an efficient manner. So that's it.
And just to piggyback off of what the brother was just saying, that's one of the reasons why I really love competition shooting. Because a lot of people say, "Oh, that'll get you killed in the streets," but exactly what the brother said is you learn how to manipulate and handle your gun under a degree of pressure. There's no one trying to kill you. However, if you're competitive like me, you want to do well, and that timer is running. Not only that, when you're shooting, there might be 20 people standing behind you, and they're just watching. So there's a degree of pressure there. It's not the same as someone trying to do you harm, but it's still a good training mechanism for you to try to operate your weapon quickly under some form of stress. As far as starting off, I think ideally 22 caliber is the best case scenario, and then suppressed even better if you can, just because it's going to be really, really quiet. Just so you know, a suppressor, also known as a silencer, does not make the gun whisper quiet like in the movies. That's movie magic. Depending on what you're shooting, if you were to use a suppressor and shoot, you still could damage your hearing permanently. It could be that loud. The brother was laughing because I was trying to grab some ammo. I don't know if I can. Right here is 22. So that little thing there, this one here is 9. All right, that's a 9mm, the bigger one. The small ones are 22. Just to give you an idea, one is much, much smaller, right, than the other one. So usually 22 is best. If you don't have access to 22, then I usually start people off with 9. Men and women the same. Because really it's not about strength so much as it is about knowing where to put leverage. So the average person can control a gun to a degree. Strength does help, make no mistake, it does help. But if you know where to put pressure on the firearm, then you can manage it. Just as a side note, I've gone to the range with a bunch of couples, and on average, women learn faster than men. Hands down, again and again, the women outshoot the men, and the men are always mad. But hey, it is what it is. The ladies are doing their thing. I think it's partly ego that kind of drives that, but never mind. That's another.
It's absolutely ego.
Right.
That's ego. It's funny because when I was going through basic, the instructors were saying that it's usually the men who come in, they're always messing up and not hitting the targets right. But the women, it's how the women and those who have no prior training in firing guns that do better. Because you get young guys, they could be 18 or whatever, and in my experience, it's mostly white boys who grew up, shooting guns, so they already think they know. But then they get into the range of the military, they're not really hitting the target. They're just used to just shooting, but you're not used to being precise, and we're instructed, like when you look down the sights, okay, you have sights, right here, closer to your face, and you got one at the end of the barrel. It may sound counterintuitive, but when you put the sight on your target, you have your eyes where you have your focus. So most people will put their focus on the sight at the end of the barrel and put that on the target and then pull the trigger. But then they'll somewhat ignore the sights that's close to the back of the barrel here, all right, from using the terms correctly, where you're supposed to do the opposite. And then you pull the trigger, where the sight at the end is blurry. But you would think you would have to put your focus there, but no, but when you do that, you miss. So I said, well, let me follow instructions. And that's, how I got the marksman, because I paid attention. I didn't come in there with my ego. And there's some other steps in there about, making an L shape, put the insight on, let's say, the left-hand side of the target, go down and then over, then focus, and then you put your focus on the sights that's close to your eyes, then pull the trigger. Again, that's a whole lot. Some of it sounds counterintuitive, but it works. But again, it's mostly the guys who think they know everything that messing up, but it's usually the women and men who have no prior training that get it right.
I'm just trying to get on my John Wick. So I'm gonna need all the secrets. But we'll be wrapping up soon.
So hold on. So to your statement, right? I was told that the best way to get to a higher level is with an airsoft, right? Is using the airsoft gun, and because you get reaction from it, and you can see your target, right? And so if a person did want to elevate their game without spending a lot of money on ammo, what I'm told is the use of an airsoft, because you can have a target, you can have multiple targets, and you can put yourself through drills, and you can get reaction from the firearm, right? And so, and you can see how John Wick doesn't work, right? In a real life situation. But if you want to elevate that game, and then get your buddy or your spouse and have them shoot back at you, right? And see what you would really do. There's ways to simulate, right? There's ways to simulate.
What about laser tag? Will I get some good training from laser tag?
Now I'll be 50 in December, and so me remembering laser tag, like a whole bunch of gear on and this tag on my helmet, and I'm bouncing around with all the stuff. I don't know if that's changed, but that wasn't fun, And they had to have something on my gun, and is it still that way?
I haven't been since the civil rights movement, so I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I took my daughter last year. We went to laser tag, and it's fun when you're positioning yourself, repositioning yourself, getting cover, but there's no recoil. So it's like you're used to having a whole meal, and then somebody comes and gives you like a bag of air to eat. And
what about paintball?
That's a little better in my opinion. Because again, you're dealing with real consequences. Laser tag, you're not dealing with any consequences. Paintball,
the thing vibrates though to let you know you hit the laser tag. So
but you don't have no recoil, so you don't get the feel of real combat. You know what I mean? You just you're positioning yourself, you're running, you're moving. You get exercise that way. But as far as getting the real feel, paintball is closer than the laser tag. Paintball, you actually have a real projectile coming at you, and and it's a real life hit rather than a vibration. The paintball, you're really getting hit. The only thing I don't like about it is if the paintball hit the tree next to you and a little bit of paint splash on you, then they say, okay, you're out. I'm like, why didn't you get hit? What you talking about? But unless it was
I guess they count that as a ricochet.
Yeah. That's what they can get the game over with and rotate some other people.
Yeah. But this is going to be my last official question. For those wanting to obtain a gun, where are some places
Texas
they can get one legally, and what should they expect in terms of the process of purchasing a gun and purchasing different types of guns? So what is the process with a handgun versus a rifle, as you say, or is it pretty much the same? So what should we expect when we decide that I want to own and what are some legalities? Like who can own where you're at and who can't?
So you can't be a felon, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can't have a felony, and you can't play with the word felon. If it says felon on your background, you're not getting a gun. I don't think anywhere in the country you can get a gun if you're a felon. A shotgun is easy to get. A rifle is easy to get because I can still go hunting, right? I can go for deer or buffalo or ducks, right? Or squirrels, depending on the season. The handgun is hard to get. Why do you need to have a handgun, sir? Living in Virginia, you're not hunting with that, and so it's and even in Texas, early March, the dude told me that it was taking about 10 days to get the background back when it used to be immediate, right? I used to fill out the paperwork, hand it to him, and wait 10 seconds, and now I'm approved. So it's taking about 10 days. And so there has to be, there's a background check required in Texas, definitely, before you purchase. Handguns are harder. This business about things that are called assault rifles don't exist, right? Assault rifles do not exist. You cannot, all guns assault people when the trigger's pulled by a human being, right? And so AR-15, AK-47, those are rifles, right? Those are rifles. I think stock standard, they don't even shoot. Hey. AR? Is that an AR?
Yeah.
AR. That shoots how many rounds at a time, standard? One shot, right? So there's no automatic, right? There's no automatic rifle, as we see in the movies. That gun has been modified. And plain and safe, every state has their law about modifying your gun. I don't know if it's a federal law, but every state has their law about modifying your gun. But it's a standard, there is no such thing as an assault rifle. So don't let people play word games with you, right? Just like the hollow point is viewed as a deadlier, as a more nefarious bullet, right? You're really trying to kill somebody with them hollow points. Actually, I'm trying to kill less people with the hollow point. Because the design of the hollow point is to explode in me, Will? Is that accurate? Is it exploding?
It'll expand.
It'll expand in me rather than penetrate through me and kill the person that's behind me, right? So it's preferable, logically, to have hollow points in your gun for home defense, right? That's a self-defense round. But the word on the street is that's a killer round because of the function of it causes more damage, yes, but it protects more people, right? So don't allow people to play word games. An AR-15 pistol is a pistol by law, right? So whatever parameters they set up for this thing, if it meets those parameters, that's what it is. And you have to treat it as such. You can't play like it's a rifle on Monday and a pistol on Wednesday. You know what I mean? If it's an AR-15 pistol, you got one, Will?
I could grab one in about 10
I
seconds.
thought you were looking for it. Right? And so you have to know, we're saying this over and over again, you have to know the laws within your state so you don't get caught up in some foolishness, right? It's it says 55 miles per hour, sir. You were going 56. Well, I thought y'all gave a 5-mile grace period. No. The rule is 55. You violated the law. And so remember, you black first. You have the legal right to have your firearm because you went through the necessary steps in your state, and you still black with the legal right. The firearm you have that you're carrying, you have to carry it within accord with the laws in your state on most days, right? This current situation that's going on in Minneapolis, I saw something where the police and the National Guard were allowing black people in Minneapolis to patrol their own neighborhoods with their guns out and shoot back. I was like, well, that's a turn, right? That's a turn. Because of what's going on there, this is being allowed. Did they say they were a militia? No, they just said they're citizens of the neighborhood, protecting their neighborhood.
All right. Anybody else?
Yeah. So again, state law is going to matter. I live in Delaware. I went over the line and went into Pennsylvania and bought that rifle that I just showed. I went and bought that. I was like, I walked in the store, give me that one. Background check, paid for it, went home. Same gun shop over the line in PA. I went and bought a handgun. Oh, we can't let you leave with it because you live out of state. We have to send it to an FFL. So FFL is someone that's essentially, they have the appropriate paperwork for them to accept rifles or weapons, I should say, on your behalf. So they mailed it to the FFL over the line in Delaware. I went there, they did the background check, and then I picked it up. So honestly, you can order a gun online. You can go online and order it. It's not going to come to your house, though. It's going to go to an FFL. Same thing. Some FFLs could work out of regular gun shops and gun ranges. Some of the FFL could just be literally someone in their house. And I had that happen in Delaware. I ordered a rifle online, and it came to an FFL. When I looked at the address, it was just someone's house. And he just had the paperwork that he needed. I went in his living room, signed everything. He did what he had to do as far as his checks. And I went home with my firearm. So just understanding how you can purchase in your area. The brother made a point about when you're going to buy, kind of how to go through that process. I think there's some mistakes that people make when they do that because they don't know. No one can tell you what gun that you should get any more than someone can tell you what the best food to eat is. Some people like steak. Some people like salmon. I can't tell you what you're going to like more. So everyone's hand is going to be built differently, right? All these guns are built differently. So what feels good in my hand might not feel good in your hand. So it's almost like buying a car. So best case scenario is you'll go to the gun store, you'll handle as many guns as you can handle, right? You'll figure out what feels good in your hand. On your way there, you already have an idea of what you want. For example, if you're going to buy a car, do I want a hybrid? Do I want a stick shift? Or do I want an automatic transmission? Do I want a diesel? Do I want a pickup? What features are important to me? Do I want heated seats? Same thing with the gun. Figure out what features are important to you and use that to narrow it down. When you get there, figure out which guns have those features, handle those. Which ones feel good in my hands? I can't use single stacks. My hands are too big. So they feel like popsicle sticks. So I don't use them. I like Glock. I'm a Glock guy. So narrow it down by which one feels good in your hand. Now, once you have a list of which ones feel good in your hand, if you can, rent those, borrow them from friends, whatever you need to do, and then shoot them. Because just like sitting in a car in the car lot is going to feel different than when you drive it. Handling a gun and just holding it at the counter is going to feel different than when you actually shoot it, right? So you want to know what that feels like and what you're going to be using. Is that car going to ride like your grandfather's caddy and you're not going to feel any bump on the road, just going to float? Or is it going to feel more like a sports car where you feel every single bump that you encounter, right? So you want to figure out what that guns feel like. And honestly, the gun is going to choose you. So once you go down that list and then you get to the shooting part, there's one gun that's going to stand out and say that one feels the best. And that's the one you go home with. The only thing I will say is stick to reputable companies that have been proven through combat if the gun is going to be used for self-defense, because you want to make sure that gun is going to work when it needs to work. So Glock, SIG, Smith & Wesson, Canic is also good. H&K is good. I know a lot of my brothers and sisters love Taurus, and I guarantee there's a bunch of people that have bought Taurus guns in the chat right now. I'm not trying to clown on your gun, But if you're going to spend $250 on a gun, save $50 more and get a Smith & Wesson Shield. It's the same size, but it's going to be much more reliable. Because definitely, if your life is on the line, you want to make sure your gun works, just like you want to make sure your car is going to start up when you need to go to work.
Indeed. And to your point earlier, there's a sister on Facebook, and please forgive me if I say your name incorrectly, but Ikurti Tina Midgetti. She says, in Delaware, I bought my first gun online, and they shipped it to an authorized FFL. I had to go to their home to pick it up and did a transfer, and they charged me $15.
Mm-hmm.
So to reiterate what you just said, and David Shaw asked a question. He said, I'll post it. Hopefully it shows up. Does it show up?
We don't know. We don't know that. We couldn't know that.
I can't remember. I haven't bought one in a while. I don't think they asked, but I can't remember, to be honest with you.
He's asking why do they? We don't know why they.
Oh, why? Yeah, I read that wrong. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, like when I did, I mean, I got mine directly in the gun shop, so the guy could see me, and he just took my ID, and they do a background check through the FBI database, and then only took like maybe 5 minutes, and then got my shotgun, and that was it. So I don't, unless it's like something that's online, you buy it online, I don't know.
And we have this question from Chris Cross. Hopefully it shows up.
From a pawn shop?
If you know about guns and what you're looking at, then that's a way that you can get something at a lower price point. But you have to really know what you're looking at. Just like if you're buying a used car, it's really no different. Is the barrel worn out? Is the firing pin look like it's cracked? Is there any damage anywhere that's going to be difficult to repair? There are some things where there could be parts of the gun where it is completely damaged and maybe even broken, but maybe it's a $5 part. But I wouldn't recommend that if you're not really familiar with whatever type of firearm that you're looking at, because you could end up buying something that's not going to work.
Right. And sometimes that only shows when you fire it, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. You only notice this when you fire. I just bought something from a pawn shop a few weeks ago and took it to the range, and the magazine kept coming out, right? Mm. And I was like, what in the world? And the Smith had it, and the Smith said it's a little piece in the magazine that just got worn out over time. Let it sit in there. I didn't see that at the pawn shop, right? And I surely can't fire it at the pawn shop.
That's frowned upon.
So, and the pawn shop is no returns, right? No returns whatsoever. So I got to fix this thing, right? I got to have it fixed. And so I suggest to people, you can buy new. Buy new. You can't go wrong.
Now, this person, they asked the previous question, is a 357 legal? And then I guess this was a kind of a follow-up to that. So Shamika Ghostly, what about NYS or NYC? What I guess you're gonna have to kind of re-ask, what about what? I know that, New York has some strict gun laws. And I can say that, don't go to the airport with any parts of a gun in New York City, because you will get arrested. And so you can,
like Asian or whatever, they're not playing. You can be a white woman and they're taking you to jail. They did. That's what the report I read. I was like, wow. She was standby.
Yeah.
Standby. Layover rather. She was laying over in New York. So, and kept her guns.
Wow. David Shaw replied, I just did a background check at Academy a couple of days ago, and it asked me for my race and ethnicity. So he, went through the large training academy, and that's who asked him about his race and ethnicity. Let me see. I don't see any. Hold on. He's hold on. Left-handed people, you probably want to get one of those. And that's just like a Glock or Walter. Okay. So Sister Ikurti, she asked on Facebook, are any of you FFL dealers?
Not yet.
I am not.
Not yet. Not yet.
I do know a brother in Delaware that is, but I'm not.
Mm-hmm. Let me see. If y'all don't have any, somebody asked, what about a Ruger? What about a Ruger? David Shaw, what are you asking about the Ruger? Y'all familiar with a Ruger? Y'all shot a Ruger before?
I have one of my friends that's that loves his Ruger. I'm not against Rugers are solid guns. They're not quite as popular as like you hear Glock all the time, or you hear SIG and M&P, or Smith & Wesson M&P line. I have no issue with Ruger. That's not my personal preference. I'm a Glock guy. Glock has been proven to work. Not that Ruger hasn't, but from my experience, I don't know a lot of military people that had the option to choose their weapon, not a weapon that was issued to them by the military, but people that get to choose their weapon. I don't know many of them that choose a Ruger when they're going into harm's way. They're choosing Glocks and SIGs and M&Ps. So if those people whose job is to go into harm's way are saying, I trust a Glock, I trust H and Clay, I trust SIG, then I have no choice but to fall in line with that. I've never been in a gunfight, and I don't want to be. So I'm going to lean on their experience and say those are the ones that that I'm going to roll with.
All right. I wonder, do they have sniper schools for civilians?
There are some long-range accuracy courses that you can take. What I found is that some of the higher level tactical training is hard to get if you're a civilian. A lot of these companies won't train you unless you're law enforcement or military. And I think part of that is because they're afraid of what you're going to do with that information. So a lot of them won't train you. Some of them will. But there's ways around that, because you can get into long-range shooting in the competition aspect. And you're going to learn a lot of the skills that you're going to learn in a military aspect. A target is a target. You're sending that bullet. If you can make your bullet go where you want it to go, it doesn't matter what the target is. The skill still applies.
Indeed. If you use that, put your exact driver's license name. 17. Someone said, facts. If you do use FFL, put your exact driver's license name to a T. I guess if you put one letter off or something like that, you have to start the whole process over. I'm assuming, according to this person. But it doesn't seem to be any more questions. And so I just want to thank you, gentlemen, for conversing with me and my audience on just a wide range of things dealing with, guns, training, safety, and the like. And I want y'all to, especially you, Brother Yara and Brother Will, since y'all do training, to remind us the name of your company or whatnot, where you're located, and how can they get in contact with you to learn more about guns, gun safety, and training. And I know I see a lot of videos with you, Brother Will, so make sure you give them your well, I always see them on Facebook. I don't know if you have them on YouTube, but if you have a YouTube address, make sure you give that out. So I'll go with Brother Yara first.
You can always find me at my last name is AANEB, Apple, Nancy, Edward, Bravo. First name is Yara, as it appears, YAHRA. on Facebook. The name of the company is Brass Tactics, plural, Brass Tactics. What is it? Brass Tactics 1@gmail.com, and then brasstactics.info. www.brasstactics.info is my website. My phone number 426-469-526. Can't remember the rest of it, but you can always reach out to me on Facebook. Just Google my name.
All right. Brother Will.
All right. I'm on Instagram at I Run and Gun. I is an indigo, and then run like run track. AND and then gun like the weapon. Same thing. My YouTube page is I Run and Gun, and then my fan page on Facebook, same thing. I Run and Gun again. You get a hold of me through any of those avenues, or you can also send me an email at ancestralenergy@gmail.com, or you can give me a call at 407-883-1736. And I'm in the Delaware area, so Delaware's small, so I've had clients that are from Pennsylvania, Maryland, DC, and of course in Delaware as well. So,
indeed, and just for those who are catching the archives, I will go back and jot down all the names and phone numbers and things, and I'm gonna put it in the description, so that information will be in the description when you first see it. So just give me a second, and I'll put it up there later on tonight. Sanjeti, even though you don't have a training school at the moment, you do teach meta nature, and that's another form of defense in another area. So if you want to learn how to shoot and write meta nature, I want y'all to holler at my boy Sanjeti. So tell them how they could get in contact with you.
Starting off, just on the Facebook, SONJEDI, and then Ankh Ra. Or you can shoot me an email at S as in Sam, N, Nancy, J as in job, D as in dog, I, period, and then Ifatunde, so that's IFATUNDE, the number 8, and then at gmail.com. So.
Indeed. And no, I don't. Oh, go ahead.
469-526-3462 is the phone number. It's best to call me. Yeah. It's not right, sorry.
Well, I'm not training any of y'all. It's anything I do is for secret missions only. Anyway, but I do appreciate all of you fellas for joining me tonight. Again, this was a very good show, and based on the nature of the chat and whatnot, everyone is very much engaged and listened to you. So I hope that some things resonated with you all tonight, and seriously consider purchasing a firearm and training with a firearm and teaching your family. You have a girlfriend, you have a wife, teach them, because you can't be at the house all the time. And if something happens while you're gone, you want to make sure that your family members can handle themselves in your absence. If talking about men specifically. So please visit these brothers' sites. And outside of that, Brother Yara, tell him about You Kemet Press and some of the latest works.
You came Press. There you go, baby. That's the older one.
Yeah, this first.
And I need your zip code. I need your apartment number, Sanjay.
Yeah, I already said.
Okay. So UKMT Press on Facebook. UKMT Press on Facebook. We are a Pan-African publishing company. We write, edit, distribute our own work. We have 22 publications on the market right now. We have 5 texts that are, well, we have 4 texts that are excess of 1,000 pages. 1 text is 800 and some odd pages. Those are our fundamental texts. My Guiding Principles, Moral Living is the first book that we put out. You have to do, same we were saying tonight, you have to deal with the mentality or the will. Sanjetti was holding up the book. You have to deal with the mentality or the will of a person, the moral ground of a person, before you deal with their intellect. Thank you, Sanjetti. There it is. And then from there we have African Time. From there we have Fox Squared, Complete. And then you have Chi Squared. You have Chi Squared, which deals with the philosophy of Kemet. And so it's in an applied sense. So all of our work deals with application. We want to give you information, and we want to give you how to utilize the information, right? And so then we have one of our newest books is called Initiation. Where's that at, Sanjay? Initiation. Bam! Initiation is a companion book to Ma'at. We also have the book Sepet, which is a calendar, is the solar calendar. And so today is 2020, right? Dealing with the White's calendar, and their calendar fell, but the actual year is 7,726. 7,722, if I'm not mistaken, is the correct year. 7,722 is the correct year. So why is that important? To move anywhere, you have to know your space in time. You have to know your place in time, right? And so there was a period where other cultures of people, other races of people, were not able to track their history. We're not able to track their time. We were tracking our time. And so it makes sense that we get back on our own path by using this calendar that we have. And it's not a month-to-month and holiday. It's a yearly calendar. Once you get the year straight, you can plug in the months and you can plug in your holidays and so on and so forth. But you have to know where you sit in space and time. And so that's that initiation on organization, the timely text for this period. On organization, Keperu deals with transformation from being in the United States or anywhere in the diaspora to back to Africa. Those are the 4 newest texts. 5 of the texts are being revised as we speak. Study teams, survival organizations, what must be done, teaching teams, and SIBA are all being revised. Maybe by the end of July, that'll be finished. And so we're adding pages, making the proper edits, and getting those back on the market. And so our mission is to set the foundation. Our mission is to set intellectual, moral, intellectual, and practical foundation for our people to stand on. And so we're doing the groundwork that the rest of our people can stand on to build something. But I said ukmtpress.com, and that Facebook, I'm sorry, UKMT Press on Facebook, and that'll lead you to our store to purchase. But it's time for us to get serious and quit. It's time for us to get serious and start utilizing the tools that we have available to us. So appreciate that. Sorry. There you go, baby. There you go. Love you. There it is. My Guiding Principles of Moral Living. Research. That's the diagram book.
Yeah, the diagram.
Yeah, that's the diagram book. So 25 diagrams. We have. Yes, so keep line mine. That is right. It's about the process of it. Whereas Ma'at deals a lot with the principles of it and some what to do. Initiation does with what to do. And so the hitters are Ma'at, African time, box square, chi square, the art of research. Those are the hitters. Those are fundamental. Those are fundamental. Those are the cornerstone books. And so it's this time period. This sister, she's 68 years old. She lives in Ohio, and she called me up. She said, "Brother Yara, what y'all wrote in Keperu is it's coming true. It's like y'all had a crystal ball. You know, it's just playing itself out." And I'm saying, no, it's a study of history, right? It's a study of history. What have people done in the past in situations like this? They're going to do the same thing. And so that's how we're able to seemingly predict the future, right? We see the pattern. We study the history and see the pattern. They have no choice. This country has no choice but to do what it is doing. We have to respond accordingly, not for what we wanted to do, but for what it's doing. Accept things for what they are, not for what you believe them to be or want them to be. Accept it for what it is, right? She don't like me no more. So I appreciate that, son.
No problem, no problem. And Brother Will, outside of the actual training with the guns or firearms, you also do fitness. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so company name is Willpower Health and Fitness. Go to willpowerhealthonline.com or at Willpower Health on Instagram, and you can contact me that way. So I primarily now at this point do online training. I had my own fitness business when I was in Florida, so I did that for 9 years. I had my own studio in Castleberry, but I'm in Delaware now, so primarily I'm doing online fitness. So we still can make things happen that way, especially with the COVID roaming around.
Indeed. And so I appreciate again you brothers, and as always, love and light. I will update everyone on upcoming shows. So we got some powerful researchers and dynamic individuals, and this series will continue in terms of learning how to fight. And so, we'll probably get Brother Yara back and Dr. Dakar and some others, so we can get on this organizing, how to fight by way of organization in things of that nature, and dealing with the books that they just released, and any future books. I don't know if y'all have any more books coming out, but
just released 2, man.
But y'all
last week.
Dr. Dakar's like, this is the last book. Then 5 books came after the last. So, I believe some more books is hidden somewhere. So that he forgot or something like that. But with that said, I will keep everyone updated. So make sure that you subscribe to the channel so that you can get all the updates when we have these dynamic guests back on for some other topic or whatnot. And please like and share the video and keep the conversation going. And so this is my contact information. And with that, I will say good night to everyone. You have a safe weekend. Peace.